Howdy folks, welcome back to War Thunder with the mighty Jingles. Patch 1.39 is upon us and it's brought a whole host of changes, some of them obvious, some of them not so obvious. The obvious changes are, of course, new aircraft. New aircraft like this, the LA-174, new Soviet jet, of which there are two new Soviet jets. The LA-15 is the other one, but unlike the LA-15, the LA-174 isn't going to be around for long. This thing is going to disappear on the 21st of April, so 6 days to go if you're watching this video on the day it comes out. You get the LA-174 the same way as you get all of your other aircraft. Effort and research, or if you're like me, throw some money at the game, convert some free XP, and then show everybody on YouTube because you don't have the time to grind out a new aircraft. There it is. It goes away on the 21st of April. If you haven't unlocked it before then, you've missed your chance. Similarly, there's this premium Soviet aircraft. It's actually a Supermarine Spitfire Mark 9. It's the Lend-Lease version. It's a Russian premium aircraft. 6,900 Golden Eagles. Again, this also goes away on the 21st of April. So don't miss your chance if you're interested in these two aircraft. They're not the only new Russian aircraft. There are a couple of lower levels. There's a new I-16 Type 24, and there's also an I-16 Type 27, which you can see there and there. So that's pretty much it for the Russians. The Americans have some interesting new aircraft. I haven't bought or unlocked any of them yet, so it should be relatively easy to identify which ones are new. They're the ones that I haven't actually researched. We're going to start off with this thing. The F-82E. Yep, it's two Mustangs strapped together. Machine guns mounted in the middle, which makes a lot of sense. I have no idea what this thing flies like. I imagine it's going to be interesting. I really don't know. But yeah, there it is. That's what it looks like. It's available. Strange looking beast. It's not the only new American aircraft, of course. There is also, as you can see here, the P-80A. The F-80 Shooting Star is no longer the first introductory American jet, although it has exactly the same battle rating as its new predecessor, the P-80A jet fighter. They're both battle rating 6.7 aircraft, but there's another new Shooting Star effectively in the American tech tree. There's also this thing here, the F-84B, which looks like this. Two very distinctive drop tanks. Well, not drop tanks, just big old fuel tanks mounted on the wings. Also a machine gun armed jet. 6 M3 50 caliber machine guns mounted in the nose, and that's it there. I believe that is about it for the Americans. No, hold on, there is another new Corsair, a marine version. And there it is. It's the F4U-1A United States Marine Corps Corsair. Battle rating 3, another new Corsair thrown into the mix there as well. And that is it for new American aircraft. Moving on to the Germans. The Germans do have a couple of very welcome new additions to their tech tree. The German tech tree, despite being very, very well fleshed out at low and mid levels, once you got to the top end of the tech trees, was looking a little bit sparse because they pretty much had the ME-262 and that was it. And the ME-262 didn't even come close to having the same battle rating as the F-86Fs, the MiG-15s and the Meteor F-4s. Well, that deficiency has been addressed. They have a new ME-262, the ME-262C1A, which has a battle rating of 7.3. It has a rocket in the tail. It's a rocket-boosted ME-262 jet fighter. And that's not all. They have some post-war aircraft, including the Canadair Mark V Sabre. 75 Canadian Mark V Sabres were transferred to the Luftwaffe during the Cold War. So the West German Air Force flew Canadian Sabres. The East German Air Force flew Russian MiG-15s. So the Germans now finally have something at the very top level to compete with. So that's always a welcome addition. There's also a new Focke-Wulf 190A1, which is around here somewhere. There it is. A rank 2 Focke-Wulf 190. It's nice. And a new Dornier 217. There it is. Dornier 217N2. I'm not entirely sure. This is one of the new Dorniers. Let's see. It seems to be the only one I haven't unlocked, so yeah, that must be it. Dornier 217N2. Which appears to be, looks like another one of the Night Fighter variants, judging by the radar in the nose and the mass of guns and cannons sticking out the front of this thing. So there you go. Those are the new German aircraft. Then we move on to the British. Isn't she lovely? That's the Mark 22 Spitfire. There's also a Mark 24 Spitfire. And that's the last production variant of the Spitfire that was ever made. I'm probably going to get strung up from the nearest lamppost if I get this wrong, but I think number 86 Squadron was the only Royal Air Force squadron to operate the Mark 24s. Not many of them were made. Most of them were used in foreign service. But there it is. They have one of these at the Silent Sky Aviation Museum in Southampton. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful aircraft. And the difference between, or the primary difference between these Spitfires and all of the other Spitfires is that these things had Griffon engines. They didn't have the Rolls-Royce Merlin engines, so they were much more powerful, but not as agile as previous Spitfires. And that's kind of the way the Spitfire evolution went. The early versions of the Spitfire, the Mark 1, the Mark 2, the Mark 4, they were very, very agile, very, very light aircraft, but not very powerful. And of course, as development went on, the Spitfire got heavier and heavier and more powerful and more powerful. Better aircraft, but not as much fun to fly. Now, I'm relatively certain that the flight models aren't completely in place for the Mark 22 and the Mark 24. But I didn't do terribly in them, let's just put it that way. Flew a realistic battle in the Mark 22 today and did all right, but it wasn't particularly challenging. And we'll see the results later on. They're not the only two new British aircraft, of course. There are others. This one here, which I'm currently researching, I saw there was a new Mosquito and I immediately stopped progress on the Meteor F4 and jumped straight towards this. Unfortunately, I don't know if I really should have bothered. I'll show you what I mean. This is how it looks. I mean, it looks amazing. I love aircraft with the Normandy invasion stripes on them. It looks sexy as all hell, and I looked at the guns in the nose and thought, oh, yeah, good. It's the Mark 18 Mosquito fighter bomber. But those guns in the nose are 7.7mm machine guns, so they're crap. But there's a gun underneath. You can just about see the barrel there. That's a very, very big gun underneath. That is a 57mm cannon. And you know I do like my derp guns. But I'm not too sure about this. The thing is, that 57mm cannon only has 25 rounds of ammunition, and you can't choose ammunition types for it. You're stuck with armor-piercing tracer ammo. So you can't load high explosive fragmentation incendiary and go derping bombers in it. It's armor-piercing. Your shot's just likely to go straight through and out the other side. So it's a dedicated anti-armor killer. It's good for going after tanks and bunkers. And I don't know, that's just not fun. It's not as much fun as derping bombers. And the rest of the armament is this shitty 7.7mm machine gun that the Brits were so obsessed about. And it's terrible. So I think it's going to be a bit of a one-trick pony. And I'll unlock it because it's a Mosquito. But I don't know if... Well, you know, your mileage may vary. This is what it is. This is what it does. This is what it's good for. If you like going after ground targets, peeling open tanks and destroying bunkers, then yeah, you're going to love it. Myself, I'll probably unlock it just for the sake of unlocking it. And then go back to getting my Mark IV Meteor. So... there you go. New British aircraft 2, new Spitfires, a new Mosquito. Oh, wait, that's not all. There's a new premium British aircraft as well. The Avenger Mark 1, naval bomber, torpedo bomber. Obviously, it's an American aircraft, but the Royal Navy did use these. And there it is. It's pretty cheap as well. It's only 1,000 Golden Eagles for a Rank 2 Royal Navy Avenger Mark 1 naval bomber, torpedo bomber. And that is it for the Brits. Then we move on to the Japanese. And the Japanese, like the Germans, there's basically, let me see. Well, there's the obvious changes over here. They have a saber, the F-86 F-30 saber, used by the Japanese Air Self-Defense Force, supplied by America. So it's an 8.7 battle rating, rank 5 saber. Machine gun armed, uses 6 M3 50 caliber machine guns. So, and that was badly needed, because the best thing that the Japanese had was the KI-200, which is just a poor man's version of the ME-163 Comet. So they badly needed that. They also have a new Zero, and I have already unlocked it, so I can't remember which one it was. Oh, Jingles, you're so crap. Hang on a minute. Right, I've just checked the patch notes. It was the A6M2 Mod 11. There it is. So, battle rating 3.7, rank 2, another 0. There it is. So, yeah, the Japanese tech tree, it's still not the most widely fleshed out of any of the tech trees, but at least they can now be relatively competitive at high level. They still only have 2 rank 5 aircraft compared to, what, the Brits? A lot. 5, 6. The Soviets, millions. You get the idea. I mean, even the Germans are starting to look good at the top tiers now. The Americans are just crawling with sabers and panthers and shooting stars and thunderjets, and the Japanese have got a shitty KI-200. But at least now they have a saber, so there is something that you can actually. It's primarily, I think, it's going to keep the people who play realistic battles happy, because you can only fly one aircraft in realistic battles. Those of us who like to play arcade are still going to be feeling the hurt trying to stuff a lineup of top tier aircraft. It's just very difficult to do with the Japanese, because they've only got 2. So you include both of those, and then you're relegated to picking rank 4 aircraft to fill up the gaps. Whereas with the Americans, bad example because I've got a low rank American lineup there. The Russians, for example, bang, there you go. Just rank 5 aircraft as far as the eye can see. So great news if you play realistic battles and you're a fan of the Japanese. Slightly better than terrible news if you play arcade battles and you're a fan of the Japanese. At least you have one more top tier aircraft to put in your lineup with. So that's it for the obvious changes. But there are some slightly less obvious changes as well, although they're only less obvious until you figure out how to activate them. And I'm talking about customization options. War Thunder now has support for user skins, and it's here in the customization page. There's my KI-84, looking as God intended it to look. But you can put clown camo all over your aircraft if you so desire. Now, I am probably not going to mess around with this feature. I like my aircraft to look the way they were supposed to. But there's obviously a lot of enthusiasm for messing around with the look of the various different aircraft in the game. And it's now officially supported by the use of, there it is, user skins. I'm probably not going to mess around with this, and I'm certainly not going to be doing any tutorials on it, because I don't like messing around with the way the aircraft looks. But I'm sure there will be many YouTube channels who devote hours to exploiting this feature. And yeah, nothing wrong with that. It's a very popular way of passing time, messing around with the way your aircraft looks. So official support for that built into the game now as well, even if it doesn't interest me one little bit. Messing around in the menu, you'll see a whole bunch of other stuff has changed as well. If you go down here to game options, something that you couldn't do before was actually mess around with the game's graphics settings inside the game. It had to be done from within the game launcher. Before you actually started the game up, you would choose your graphics settings. Well, now you can mess around with it on the fly here, actually inside the game as well. Some of the options require a restart, so for all intents and purposes you may as well, depending on the options you choose, be changing your graphics settings from the game launcher the way you used to, but not all of them do, so that's quite welcome. There's also internet radio here. You can add your favorite internet radio stations and use them as in-game music when you're flying. So just, lots and lots of little things like this. They've also messed around with the way you unlock new aircraft, and in a good way. I'll show you what I mean. You go to the German tech tree. Let's say all you want to do is get to the Canadair Sabre Mark V as quickly as possible. So you'd think, well, all I have to do is just go down this line here, unlocking each new aircraft on the way. Well, you couldn't do that anyway prior to patch 1.39 because you have to have a certain number of aircraft unlocked at Tier 1 before you can unlock your first Tier 2 aircraft. You have to have a certain number of aircraft unlocked at Tier 2 before you could unlock your first Tier 3 aircraft. So what you couldn't do anyway was just go from Tier 1 to, okay, I'll unlock the BF-109E1 and then the BF-109F1 and now I can get the BF-109F4 at Tier 3. Couldn't do that anyway because you need to unlock more than 2 Tier 2 aircraft to get to Tier 3. Well, now you need to unlock more Tier 2 aircraft to get to Tier 3 than you previously needed to. Now it's 6 aircraft per tier to advance to the next. However, the amount of research points that it actually requires to unlock those aircraft has been drastically reduced. So the length of time that it should be taking you to advance from Tier 2 to 3, from 3 to 4, should be more or less the same. But you're going to have a lot more aircraft by the time you've done that. So for example, to get from Tier 2 to 3 down the BF-109 line, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 BF-109s to unlock. You would have to unlock another 2 aircraft, Focke-Wulf 190A1, maybe an MC202, and bang, then you could start grinding your way towards the BF-109 F4s of the various different, and the G2 for example. So that's pretty much how it's going to work now. More aircraft required per tier to unlock the next tier, but takes you less research points to unlock those aircraft. So you're still going to advance just as quickly, but you'll have more aircraft to show for it. In addition to that, the costs associated, just pop back in here, the cost of converting free experience convertible research points up here, the cost of converting that has been reduced by 12.5%. So the amount of golden eagles that it requires to actually use those research points has gone down. And some other welcome news, to find an aircraft that I don't think I've done any modifications on. There we go, the LA-15. The price of this, unlocking modifications with golden eagles, that has also been reduced by anything between 5 and 10%, depending on the aircraft. So you're getting more value for money out of your golden eagles. So I could sit here in the hangar talking about the changes and effectively reading you the patch notes for the next 10 minutes, but that would be boring as hell. So instead, what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you the realistic battle that I flew earlier in this thing, Spitfire Mark 22. And we'll talk about some of the other changes that you can expect to see in patch 1.39. So here it is. This is the Sicily realistic battle. I'm flying the Mark 22 Spitfire, which was the first of the Spitfires to actually be powered by a Griffon engine. It also had a 5-bladed propeller. This engine allowed the Mark 22 Spitfire to nudge 640 kilometers per hour in level flight, and it could climb to 33,000 feet in just 9 minutes. And that was the first thing that I noticed, and the first thing most people are going to notice about the Griffon engine Spitfires. They do genuinely seem to have a much better climb rate than the Merlin engine Spitfires, and that was particularly in realistic and probably simulator battles as well. I wouldn't know. Never flown a simulator battle. That was the big Achilles heel of the Spitfires. When you're flying the Brits against the Germans, those BF-109s and Focke-Wulf 190s would always be at higher altitude than you when you first came across them. They just outclimbed the Spitfires. They outdived the Spitfires, they outran the Spitfires. Now, while having this Griffon engine did mean that these Spitfires were faster and able to climb better than the Merlin engine Spitfires. They lost some of the agility and handling characteristics of the existing Spitfires, but they were still more manoeuvrable than their German counterparts. The introduction of the Mark 22 and later on obviously the Mark 24 Spitfire meant that the Merlin engine Spitfires were relegated to the fighter-bomber role, with the Mustangs taking over bomber escort. These were the primary air superiority fighter aircraft. I have to admit though, and this isn't related to patch 1.39, but it's something that's been bugging me a lot, particularly in realistic battles where it makes so much more of a difference. It's the position of the sun. It's right in my face. All of the German aircraft are going to have the sun behind them, and it makes it so much more difficult to spot them. And while this is, this is something that real pilots had to put up with, and if you manage to get the sun behind you, you're a fool if you didn't take advantage of it, but it just has such a massive advantage to one team or the other when one team starts with the sun behind them. Admittedly, it's only an advantage if the pilots concerned actually exploit it and take advantage of it, but we're playing realistic battles here. You tend to have people who have slightly more of an idea of what they're doing. You get this in War Thunder ground forces as well, and you'd think it wouldn't make that much of a difference in ground forces, but if you're playing on a map where the time of the day is early morning and the sun has just come up over the horizon, and you're attacking in the direction of the sun, the glare makes it really, really difficult to actually spot anything. So I'm going after this BF-110 here, and yep, it's an AI aircraft, but the reason I'm going after it is, one, he's right there, and two, this is the mission. The mission for the Allied pilots here on the Sicily realistic battle is to prevent those AI BF-110s from reaching their targets, so why not take a shot at him? Now, you may have noticed that you are now also getting more research points and credits for hitting and killing aircraft than you were prior to patch 1.39. Now, combine that with the fact that aircraft cost less to research, and the first aircraft of rank 5 that you unlock costs 25% less than it did before, as well as the fact that repair costs across the board have been generally nerfed. They estimate that you're going to be advancing 25% faster in patch 1.59 than prior to the patch, and that's a huge boost. They've also reworked the behaviour of the AI aircraft. They now have a similar flight and damage model to the player, and they seem to be a lot more intelligent. They won't chase other AI aircraft right to the end of the map anymore. They're not nearly as single-minded as they used to be. I'm diving on this Focke-Wulf 190, and I'm about to do something very, very, very silly indeed. I can't remember what the maximum speed of the Mark 22 is. And there go my flaps. Oh well. It should at least make me a bit lighter. And the Focke-Wulf 190 I was diving on got shot down anyway. But let's put myself in a good position to go after this ME410, who spotted a nice juicy B-17 in front of him. I never actually exceeded 640 kilometers per hour during that semi-controlled descent, but while your wings can take that kind of speed, they managed to take 9 Gs, your flaps definitely can't, so bad Jingles. Okay, my first shot killed the gunner on the ME410, so I should be able to finish this guy off with relative impunity. Come on. Come on. Running short on ammo. He's on fire. Right. There we go. And the rear gunners of the B-17 had just found the range and were in serious danger of shooting me down. He's on fire. He's going down. Yep, got him. There was no sense in sitting on his tail any further. He was dead, and all that was going to happen was that B-17's AI gunners were going to accidentally hit me as they tried to shoot the ME410 between the two of us. And now I'm really low on ammunition. My water's overheating, so I'm just going to farm a couple of ground kills, use what remaining ammo I have, and then RTB, repair, rearm, and come back for some more. And that was a bunker. I'm not going to kill that with 20mm cannon fire. But I can take that AAA out. That AAA, that will do. And another one. Right, let's head for home. So, I mean, we're never going to see a return to the days of the old economy in War Thunder, but they have certainly been taking steps to address most of the concerns that were raised when 1.27 came out and suddenly it was impossible to unlock new aircraft. And repairing damage was prohibitively expensive. Repair costs have been reduced. The amount of XP and credits that you earn for hitting and killing aircraft has been increased. The amount of research points that it costs to unlock new aircraft has been decreased. And they're all very, very, very welcome changes. Now, as far as the changes to flight models are concerned, doubtless you're saying, oh, Jingles, what do you think about the Mark 22 Spitfire then? You know, is it accurate? I have no idea. I don't know enough about these aircraft to judge. The real thing could do 640 kilometers per hour in level flight and could climb to 33,000 feet in 9 minutes. Well, I managed to not rip my wings off when I was in a dive approaching 640 kilometers per hour, although my flaps went flying. And it seems to climb well. I was in a roughly 30-degree climb and was still able to maintain a speed of just under 300 kilometers per hour. Oil and water, even without running. Wartime emergency power does seem to overheat very easily, though. Is this accurate? Haven't got a clue. Is it fun to fly? Yeah, that I can tell you. What's it like trying to land it without any flaps? Interesting. You've got to be really careful. Is this going to be another world-famous Jingles landing? I don't think so. Yeah. Ooh, I think I need to apply more brakes before I use the elevators to get the tail down. I nearly took off again. Oh, nearly flipped. Very, very nearly flipped. There we come on, get this tail down. There we go. Engine does produce a lot of torque. So you need to be better at using the rudder than I am to try to keep this thing straight when you're slowing down. But yeah, I like it. It seems to be a pretty good aircraft. And that was a bit of a brown trouser moment. B-17 rushing right towards me, but aircraft on the ground can't collide with each other. Otherwise there'd be a lot more crashes on takeoff than there currently are. So yeah, managed to put it down even without the flaps. Yeah, that's right, I landed a Spitfire without any flaps. My parents are so proud of me. And there's not many of them left. It looks like we've comfortably won this one. And I'm repaired to get this old crate back in the air. So yeah, patch 1.39. I think generally it's considered to be a pretty successful patch. I certainly, from a personal perspective, don't have any complaints. But, you know, it's early days yet, and oh, we've won. And somehow I've managed to get the Bulletproof Award. Oh well, I'm not complaining. So, just waiting for the first place. What? I only got 2 kills. One of those was AI. Well, I'm certainly not complaining. So, right, let's see how... Because there's a couple of new things on the post-battle results screen as well, which is, again, a welcome change. And there's the Bulletproof Award. Got more air kills than anybody else and didn't take any damage. And the Terror of the Skies Award. And, yeah, wow. First place. That's a rare turn up for the books. But there, check that out. Now it shows how many assists you also got during the course of the game. And I do feel that's fairly important, because I think the game places far too much emphasis on kills. Assists are also important. A nice new change, good to see. So, patch 1.39, War Thunder, appears to have been a pretty successful patch. I'm certainly finding very little to complain about. and lots to be happy about. The economic changes, they're making it easier to get new aircraft, they're making the rewards that you get for actually, shooting and hitting and killing things bigger. Repair costs have gone down. It's easier to unlock new aircraft. It's all pretty positive stuff. And of course, lots and lots of new aircraft as well. Now, I must stress that this is from a purely personal perspective, because when it comes to assessing whether or not the flight models of all of these new aircraft are accurate, you're on the wrong channel. I don't know. All I can tell you about the Mark 22 Spitfire is that it's got lots of great guns, and it seems to climb better than the previous Merlin engine Spitfires. Is the engine as powerful as it should be? I couldn't tell you. I don't know. If that is the sort of in-depth plane analysis that you're after, you're on the wrong channel. I recommend you go and have a look at Bismarck's channel. I saw him online earlier. He'd sneaked on there. I spotted him on my friends list. He's probably writing down checklist of things that they got wrong as we speak. Yeah, you're on the wrong channel if you're looking for that kind of in-depth analysis of War Thunder planes. I just don't know enough about aircraft to be able to make those kind of comments. However, I do understand that the Japanese realistic and simulator community in particular are pretty pissed off by patch 1.39, and it's mostly to do with the matchmaking weight assigned to aircraft like the Bearcats, which is making it really, really hard for the Japanese Zero pilots to be competitive. And I'm seeing a lot of grumbling on the forums from the Japanese community saying, well, American Bearcat pilots and Corsair pilots enjoy playing alternate history battles because there's not going to be any Japanese flying for you to fly the Pacific battles against. So that is probably, as far as I'm aware, the single major biggest complaint about patch 1.39. Other than that, everything seems to be pretty positive. So that's War Thunder patch 1.39. As always, folks, watch your six, and I'll catch you next time.